Welcome to the Toca Backstage Podcast. Join Toca's Executive Director, Chris Wolf, in conversations with the artists and people behind the scenes of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation's performances and events.
Hi, this is Chris Wolf, the Executive Director of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation, back with another edition of Toca Backstage. It is my extreme honor to have Terry and Chris from the Fenians, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Because I always want to say Fenians, but it's the Fenians, who will be performing at our outdoor concerts on the Torino Plaza coming up on June 19th, at 7 p.m. It's socially distanced, masks are worn, but it's an outdoor event, and it's just cannot tell you how excited I am to be able to do live performances again, but B, to have you guys performing on this stage, because I've worked with you like many moons ago when I was working for Brea, California, doing concerts in the park, and you guys always rocked the house down. So to summarize, the Fenians are Irish rock. How would you describe your music?
It's really hard to pigeonhole, Chris, but yes, it's Irish. I call it Irish folk rock, if I had to name that, because there are other bands, especially in the last number of years, the Flogging Molly or Dropkick Murphy type, that are very hard driving, sort of modern punk rock mixed with Irish tunes and melodies. We approach it more from we're more of a folk band that's been rocked up, rather than rock bands that play Irish music, I think, I think a good catchphrase for us, and Chris would probably agree, is it's a Celtic heart with a rock and roll soul.
I like it. And so Terry, you are the creator of the group, or is that?
You can call me the chief cook and bottle washer. How's that sound? Okay, yeah. Does that work for you? All right, buddy. I co-founded the band many years ago as a duo. Looks like I'm getting very blurry. Maybe I'll change that. I started it as a duo, and not meant to be a band leader, as it were, or have it be my band, as it were. So I think maybe that I am the only member who's just kind of dumb enough to not quit and just stick around all the time, maybe. So I'm the only original founding member left. But the group that's together now, for the most part, is the members of the Fenians that kind of everybody knew, that as we started becoming popular and growing and playing around the country and starting to play in the United States, which is myself, Chris here on the drums, aka the Animal. If there's any Muppets fans of drummers, they stole that character from him. I totally believe that 100%. And our big baritone guitar player with the wonderful baritone voice, Rob Williams, who can sing ballads that'll make you just weep instantly. We still cry listening to him on stage, in a good way, not in a bad way. And our multi instrumentalist, Hardu Yeğen, who's my favorite Turkish-Irish musician in the world, I think. And our latest addition, who's the new guy, has been around 3 years, right? It's not really a new guy, is David Weeks Wynn. I like to say he's a man so nice, we named him twice. So yes, I'm the founder, but I think a band, any good band, it should be greater than the sum of its parts, and I believe the Fenians totally is that.
And so before we started, Chris was telling me that he came on board after the group was already in existence. And Chris, you were telling me that you went from a gig you were playing to go see them, and you were standing in the back of the room. Tell me more about that.
Well, this friend of mine that I was doing the gig with, after the gigs, recommended that I go down the street on 17th Street, just about a mile down, and see this Irish band at the Harp Inn called the Fenians. And I said, what kind of music they do? He said, they do Irish music. So I had never played Irish music. So I went down, and out of curiosity, I stood in the back of the room, and I saw them. And boy, I was really toe tapping. I really was, because I heard an amalgam of rock, folk, country, even swing music. Unbelievable. And I loved Irish music, and the Fenians were my introduction to that. And boy, when I heard they needed a drummer, I really wanted to be on board. So I tried to be on my best behavior to do so.
We're still waiting for him to be on his best behavior, but we'll work with that. We can deal.
So Terry, why Irish music? Did you find your Irish roots, or is it just something that's always been inside you?
Interesting you say always been inside me, and I'll touch on that in a minute. I'm the only member of my immediate family born in the United States. So both of my parents were born and reared in Ireland. My brother and sister were born across the pond, and the family emigrated when they were 3 and 5 or 4 and 6, around that area. So I grew up with it in my house. I was the last born. I'm the only one that was eligible to be president, and I became a musician instead, which is probably better for the country. I grew up, Irish music was just an integrated part of our household. My father played the Irish whistle, and he played the old black flute. So I grew up with him, playing along to 8 tracks of the Chieftains and the Clancy Brothers and, the Wolf Tones and all these trad Irish groups around the house. Went back and forth to Ireland a number of times growing up, spent time on my aunt's dairy farm, and then we'd go out to the pub and hear music. So Irish music was definitely integrated in me. But when you're 16 and you live in California and you get a guitar, you're not really ready to jump into Irish folk music in 1980, which is so I had played in some early punk bands, played in rock and roll bands, and was really kind of banging my head against the wall. And unfortunately, my father fell very ill when I was young, at 19 years old, and it left me really missing that sort of anchor and the Irish, hearing his Irish brogue and the singing and whatnot. And I happened to be at a party. This is a light bulb moment. It was a party of a close friend of mine whose father was also from Ireland, and our fathers were friends. My parents were his older brother's godparents. Now we go back 61 years. These two families go back in Southern California, and the dad, Mr. Glennon, Peter Glennon, sang a song at this Irish party, and it was a song of immigration called Spancel Hill. And the last line was, "I awoke in California, many miles from Spancel Hill." And it was like a light bulb for me. I went, oh my God, this song is powerful. It's moving. It describes that immigrant experience. It describes my parents' experience. It describes this man's experience. And I'm like, ding, this is what I want to play. This is what's been lacking. This is why, it's been a drudge to kind of play music and we're going to make it. We don't make it. And we start a new band and we go, blah, blah, blah. Right. And it just said, I'm going to do this just for fun. I just want to learn Irish music. And so I started. I was in my early 20s, and I traded in the electric for an acoustic, and I just started learning Irish ballads. And it just, that was the seed. And the Fenians now are the I would say the tree, but it's more like the forest. We've just been growing. That's a long 5 years ago. That's a long time ago, but that was the impetus for me wanting to play Irish music. Never in a million years did I think it would be rocked up Irish music with a drum kit and writing original material and performing all over the country. Never entered my mind. I just wanted to learn a few Irish ballads because I miss my dad. So that's my story.
And Chris, are you is the Irish blood in you as well?
It is indeed. My last name is Pierce. My mother was full Irish on both sides of her family, Irish American, of course, and my father was Irish, Welsh, and part English.
We don't talk about that bit, though.
Now, one question I always like to ask performers is, when you're performing, what's your goal for the audience? What do you want them to walk away with?
Gonna take that or shall I? Well, I'll tell you what I want them to walk away with. I want them to walk away being fully entertained. And I know it's a very big umbrella statement, but I'd also like them to become a little educated and learn a little bit about Irish history, about Irish culture. And I want them to walk away thinking, if Riverdance came around, I could probably join it. I want them to kind of get that feeling of getting up, dancing, clapping their hands, and this is fun. and to walk away going, I didn't know that about this bit of history. I didn't know that. What a great, story I heard in one song or two or 10 or any of them, but also just walking away feeling like they fully just were like, wow, fun. Like, Irish? Is it rock? Is it, what is this? And who cares what it is? I'm enjoying this and I want to dance. And then I want to sit down and cry to a slow ballad and a sad ballad. So
I don't think you'll ever find a better example of storytelling in songs than Irish music. And it's not just entertainment, even though we have loads of that. You take each song for its worth, and that worth can change your life or it can enrich your life and tell the stories of people that came before you, that maybe their story can be related to your present life.
Like most folk traditions around the world, the storytellers, the balladeers, they were it was the oral history. It was the oral history that passed down the stories of the generations and those that came before. And that's so strong in Irish music, so strong.
The Seanachie.
The Seanachie, the storyteller. Yep.
And besides doing, and this is all to the people listening or watching, that your performances are just all out fun, touching, wonderful, just amazing and quite frankly for all ages. Because I remember the last time I saw you guys was, again, concerts in the park, but we had people ranging from 80 to 8 up and dancing and having a good old time. So I always hesitate to throw rock out there because I think sometimes the older set would think, just shuts it off saying, well, I don't want rock and roll. But this really is beyond compare. It's really entertainment. But besides that, you also are doing hosting a trip to Ireland, as I understand.
We are.
I just throw this caveat out. I went to Ireland with my mother, who her side of the family is all Irish, Murphy being her last name.
Oh, wow.
And we visited some, old places, but I'm now learning more and more about that side of the family. But I don't know what it is about Ireland, but it's just the nicest, most welcoming place ever. So tell me about I'm anxious to hear about your trip.
We've been doing it for quite a while now, actually. We started taking people over to Ireland in 1998. So that was the last century when you think about it that way, right? So it's something that it was a former member, Brendan, came up with the idea. We were in the Midwest playing, I think it was in Chicago at the Chicago Irish Festival, and another band had done that from New York. And we thought, wow, that would be a really good idea. I wonder if people would go from Southern California because, you grow up hearing songs like traditional songs like the Fields of Athenry, and you want to see Athenry, or people talk about the Rose of Tralee. We want to go and visit Tralee, and in Dublin's fair city where the girls are so pretty, and it's like, you want those stories to come to life, and they really do when we take folks around Ireland. So that was the beginning of that, and it just has grown and blossomed and mushroomed to a we thought it might be a one-off deal that we do, but here we are 23 years later. We go every other year, and we take now 3 busloads of people with us. So we have in the neighborhood of 120 to 130, give or take. And we show them the sights and the sounds of Ireland, the place that inspired our music. So as Chris said, it's the music is the oral history, right? It kept the traditions, and going and seeing these stories and the actual places where these true stories took place is pretty amazing. And you mentioned before, be hesitant to throw out the rock label, not to alienate people. We've had folks on this trip with 3 generations of one family. You had the mom and dad or grandparents, you had 2 of their children and their spouses and grandkids, all on this trip. So it's kind of a something for everybody trip. And being, there's a lot of good ways to see Ireland. There's no wrong way to go to Ireland, right? Let's face it. So you can, there's self-driving tours, there's some of these other guided tours, but going with the band, there's a camaraderie where everybody is, you're not just getting on like a Kon-Tiki tour and you have to meet the people, or you're on a cruise and you meet the folks that you're being seated with for dinner or whatever. A lot of these folks already know each other from the gigs here in the States. And people get to know other people on a much closer level if they've met and become acquaintances, or strangers meet. We've had people meet on this trip, start dating, get married, start a family, and they're married 25, or 20 years later. We've had people use this trip as their honeymoon, come along with, not sure I would want 120 people along on my honeymoon, but we've had people do it. Like I said, we've had 3 generations of family, and being first generation here with the only one in my family born in the States, I still have family in Ireland. I have cousins in Ireland. And so we get to see things that are off the beaten path. I'll take you to the ancestral home, the house my father grew up in. As a matter of fact, one of the trips a few years ago, we wandered by the piece of land where my dad grew up to show people kind of old rural Ireland. And there was a for sale sign out front of it, amazingly enough. And so I ended up kind of getting it back in the family. And now it's going to be a stop. It's a stop on our trip every time. And now it's here. So it's great. We, my cousins hop on the bus and ride around with us for a bit, time permitting, and tell some stories. We meet up with local Irish musicians that we've met from either playing in Ireland or met on the Irish festival circuit in the United States. We have some great nights. We have one particular night here where we're going to what is unfortunately sort of a dying breed of establishment in Ireland. We have a family-owned thatched roof country pub, right? This is in a little village called Upper Glanmire outside of Cork City. And there's a shop, there's a school and a chapel and a pub. That's about it on this little road. And nothing but farms all around it. Oh, yeah. And we're going to go there for a traditional night with one guy with a guitar who's local. I look forward to it so much. I don't tell my family this, but I think I have more fun with the Fenians in Ireland than I do when we're just there as a family vacationing. But don't tell them that. Is that okay to say?
It's only natural.
It's only natural. Yeah. So, but no, I could talk about this for another hour, so I should zip it for a little bit, maybe give Chris a couple of minutes to talk about his experiences going over, and maybe talk about you singing Grace in Kilmainham Jail. That's always a powerful moment.
It is indeed, singing Grace outside the jail itself, which tells a story about Grace Gifford. And what we do is we have the bus or the coach. Everyone get off the coach, and I tell the story about the Kilmainham Jail.
Most people here have seen Kilmainham Jail and they don't even know it. When you see an old Victorian prison in all these historical films from the 1800s or early 1900s, it's filmed inside of Kilmainham Jail in Dublin. In the Name of the Father was filmed in there. A few others that I've seen. Every time it comes around and there's some period piece where there's a Victorian prison with the wrought iron and the stone and I go, oh, Kilmainham. They filled that in Kilmainham, So the story of Grace and Mary Joseph Plunkett is amazing. Right. It was from the Easter Rebellion of 1916, and that story, they were engaged. He was taken prisoner after the failed rebellion. And she was spirited into the jail in the middle of the night so that they could be married before he was sentenced to be executed in the morning.
There was no time for consummation.
No, there was no time to share our love. Mm-hmm. It was amazing, amazing story. Amazing story.
And wow. Another time I remember on one of our tours when we touched ground in Ireland, I came off the plane and our coach driver said, "Lord have mercy, ZZ Top just got off the plane." Saw me.
We often laughed about that. That was Frank Foster, one of our drivers. Yeah, we laughed about that for years to come. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, I hope that's not my group, he said.
I have to say that when I went with my mother, we went on one of those guided bus tours. The driver was just exceptional, wonderful human being. But I always found that the best time I had was after the majority of the people were in bed, and I would like walk the streets, go to these pubs. There'd be music playing, people talking, having a good old time. That's kind of the Ireland I always think is out there. And it sounds like that's what you guys experience, is the real Ireland, not just the little going to see the breweries and the tourist stops.
There's sort of the mandatory things, like if you're visiting Southern California, you want to see the Hollywood sign, you want to go to Disneyland, that sort of Grauman's Chinese if you're a film buff, and etc. And we cover all that too. But the joy of this trip is there are days where you're free to explore on your own, and we will give you the little snippets of little places where we like to, go hang out, or where like my cousin's favorite pub is this one. You go over here and they've got a great traditional music session that goes on a Tuesday night. But you don't have to be on our coach until it goes to the next city. And heck, we've had a few people miss that if they had a rough night the night before. They end up catching up all the time. But that's the only time you have to be on any of these set tours to see. We'll see this trip. We do different routes every time too. So this trip, they'll see Blarney Castle. They'll see Kinsale, a great seaside village. We'll be in Killarney and see the Ring of Kerry. We'll go down to West Cork and see the Mizzen Head, where we named our record label Mizzen Head Music. It's a spot that was near and dear to my mom's heart, being from West Cork. We'll see the little house my mom grew up in. We'll see the house my father grew up in. We'll see all those big sites. But a lot of folks, we have a ton of repeat folks. We've gone. This will be our 10th trip, I think, in the 20 years. We have one gentleman who's been on 9 of those 10. Right. Oh. And he said, I would have been on the first one had I heard of you guys, but I hadn't heard of you guys yet. So, there are people where maybe the tour coach is going to go to the Cliffs of Moher that day, and somebody else will say, nope, we're going to stay in Galway because we want to do that. And we want to do that. So it's if your first time or your 10th time to Ireland, there's something for everybody on that trip.
Right. And nice. En route to where your destination is for that day, the coach driver gets on the speaker and he tells you of the various other things we'll pass along the way to explain about the history of the island, and it's a good way to be educated.
I'll tell you, the coach drivers in Ireland it's not, you just don't have to be a tour bus driver or operator. You're licensed, because tourism is such an important industry in Ireland. They sit for exams in history, botany, because people ask them, what flower is that? Is this heather? What's the shamrock look like? They are so knowledgeable. They tell the stories of Irish history, and all while driving these giant buses on little roads too. As Frank used to say, if the mirrors go, the rest will follow. And it's just amazing, their depth and breadth of knowledge that they have about the country that they show you around in, and they're passionate about it too. They're great storytellers, Shaughnachies, as you say in Irish, and even some of those stories are even true that they tell.
I do remember that the driver telling us that was, that he actually had to go to school to get basically a degree so he could do this as a living. And you're right, he knew everything. You had a question, he had an answer for it. So when is the trip?
This year it is October 13th through the 24th. So luckily it was not in 2020. We planned that well, didn't we, Chris?
We did indeed.
2019 on that. And so we're going back October 13th through the 24th, and all indications from our travel partners in New York, our travel agency that handles the arrangements, as well as the Irish Tourist Board and the EU, it looks like everything's going to be open in fall. So it looks like we planned the timing, knock on wood, just right.
And if somebody wants to get a ticket, they can go to your website?
Absolutely. Our website is thefenians.com, THEF as in Frank, ENIANS.com. We're also on Facebook. You can search for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I get confused because I'm too young. I'm too old for Snapchat and too young for Life Alert. So I get lost a little bit on some of these deals, but I'm sure we'll have some more info on the Toca site as well. I think we might have a few links.
Yeah, we'll make sure that your information is on here, and we will. And if nothing else, they can come to your show, ask you more questions about it. And I've always been impressed with your merch table because I don't know if you remember this, but and it's a moment that stuck with me for all these years. But you and I were talking at a Brea concert in the park, and I said, "You have the most fabulous merchandise," and you said, "Chris, I'm a retailer who does music on the side."
Well,
that always cracked me up, and I always share that story with people who have really bad merch. I said, "Where's your merchandise?" This one guy I know. So you can get your Fenians t-shirt, your CD, and sign up for this trip. Come, on June 19th at the Torino Plaza at the Cultural Arts Center. Well, I am so looking forward to this concert. And one of the things that Toca does besides present these awesome shows like you is we try to mentor and help young performers who are coming up. And I always like to ask people, what bits of advice would you have to a musician who's just starting out?
Well, I'd say learn your craft. Auto-tune and recording software can only do so much. I personally loathe the process of making a record or an album or recording. I like playing live in front of people. We have 5 lead singers in our band. Well, 4.5 really, I think, if you think about it. But certainly 5 backup singers that back each other up. We have 4 people who sing lead songs, some multiple times. And our blend of harmony is just get used to playing in your room and recording is great. But getting out in front of people and feeling that energy, it really feeds your muse. So I would get out there and really, really practice your craft. And, I always try to dispel the myth of the starving artist, the starving musician. And that goes back to your merchandise. I remember meeting a guy who used to put it on, and in New York, he'd go, merchandise, he'd always say, I like eating food and I like living indoors. So, but I also love performing my craft. So, the Casey family motto is per varius casus in Latin, which means by any means. So get out there and follow it by any means. There's get your goal and go for it. Don't screw the naysayers. Hope I can say screw. The hell with the naysayers. Just follow your heart, follow the muse, and go for it.
Do that.
And Chris, what would you say?
Well, I got into music from a very early age when I started to play piano at the age of 5, and I took lessons till I was 10. And then as the instrument became more percussive, the rhythms started taking over on the piano for me. And so I said, I've got to check this other side out. And so that's when I picked up the drumsticks and started to play. And then I saw Ringo on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he was having a blast, an incredible blast. And I said, well, I've got to check this all out. And I've just played all my life and played all different kinds of musics. And I find a joy, a physical release that's just incredible when I play, even to this day.
Awesome. That's great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. I certainly do appreciate it. And I will look forward to seeing you soon. And I will definitely make sure we get the word out about your trip. I'm just got to have a chat with my wife because I sure the hell would like to go.
Oh, we would love to have you. Oh, boy, would we love to have you. Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you on June 19th. All the best.